So Facebook's working on a smartwatch. Wait a minute, Facebook's working on a smartwatch. Ooh, why? Alright, so today I'm back to talk about the rumored Facebook smartwatch. And I didn't cover this in one of my news videos because it's all just speculation and there wasn't really much to the story. And in my news videos, I kind of like to stick to the story and then give my opinion based on the facts. And there wasn't much there. So I'm doing this video, which is a little bit different, just to kind of more so rant about why this is a bad idea. And maybe it's not a bad idea for Facebook because I'm sure they think that they'll make money off of it. But it's kind of like a consumer beware type of video. So let's start a few years back on when Facebook really started to come under fire, which was the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So if those of you who are not familiar, a firm basically was allowed access to millions of users' data through Facebook, and they used it for malicious purposes to basically spread misinformation. And it's just the fact that they pretty much had like unprecedented access to this information due to Facebook's negligence. Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, actually had to go to the US Senate to testify about why this happened and basically say like what they're going to do to prevent this in the future. So that was a big thing, and they promised to do better, and they've done like a little bit better. But my issue with Facebook recently has been their whole thing versus Apple. Now, really, this started after the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where Tim Cook kind of took a cheap shot at Mark Zuckerberg, and it was kind of funny.
And so this is something we've always felt, really
Mark
responsible
Zuckerberg,
for.
what would you do?
What would I do? I wouldn't be in the situation.
And Mark Zuckerberg got really offended about it. And that's kind of when the thing started between them and Apple. But more recently, it's just been about the iOS 14 changes. I know I've covered this in several news videos, but basically iOS 14.5 is going to give users the option to opt out if they don't want an app to use their data for advertising purposes. So it's going to say like, hey, this app wants access to this data. Do you want to give it to them? And then if you hit no, then at least on the iPhone or iPad, then you won't be opted in for it, so that Apple won't have access to your data. And Facebook has been going around claiming that this is going to hurt small businesses, and they've really been going after Apple over it. And to me, that behavior has just been disgusting. Like, it's literally gross. And I'm a Facebook user. I mean, I don't use Facebook a lot. Like, I have my Mike Texts It Out page there. I have an Oculus Quest, and I love the Oculus Quest. So it really puts me in a difficult spot to be like, don't use Facebook products, but at the same time, I use Facebook products because I really do love the Oculus Quest. And there are certain people that I talk to on Facebook that I just don't talk to anywhere else. And I think just from the standpoint of where we are as a society, maybe you have people who are like acquaintances that you don't talk to regularly, but having them on Facebook, it's just easier. Like if you need to reach out to them versus like if you have their phone number, because like if you message somebody or call somebody after like a year, you don't even know if it's the right number, and it's just really awkward. At least on Facebook, you can see that their page is still active. You can drop a message on their wall or send them a message on Facebook Messenger, and it's a lot less awkward. I think just as a society, that's kind of where we are. I mean, I've always been a bit antisocial anyway, so for me, it's just made it easier to keep in contact with people that I wouldn't regularly keep in contact with. Of course, my close friends have my phone number. We mainly text each other. Like I said, a few of them I talk to on Facebook Messenger just because it's more convenient, because a lot of them don't have iPhones, so they don't use iMessage. So it's like either WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, and everybody pretty much has Facebook. So it's just easier to use Facebook for people that don't have iMessage. That's kind of my relationship with Facebook. So I am a Facebook user, and I really like the Oculus Quest. I think as far as a low budget headset is still one of the best, or actually it's the best, like flat out. And the fact that you can do VR standalone or connect it to a PC just makes it like the best entry-level headset. So I really would like Facebook to be better about these privacy-related things, but the fact is they're not, and it sucks. And the reason I brought up the whole iOS 14 thing is because just the way they've acted, they're trying to blame Apple and be like, they're hurting small businesses. Like, in reality, giving users the option to opt out of having their information tracked, if that hurts your business, yeah, that sucks. But it shouldn't be looked at as a bad thing. That's a consumer friendly move. And like the way they're acting is like, oh, well, we have to be able to get this information without asking the user, or else if we ask them, they won't want to do it, which just sounds terrible. Like if that's your end game, to be able to get the information without permission, then there's a problem there. And the problem is not Apple. The problem is like the way that you're going about doing business. So that's been my big beef with Facebook. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we talk about the watch, because it really all ties into it and why I think that it's a bad idea. With that being said, I do love smartwatches. I have the Apple Watch right here. I love just being able to track my steps and my activities and all those things. And I think having more competition in that space is good, because it's a space that's mostly dominated by Apple. So Facebook come out with a watch, inherently, if it was a more trustworthy company, it's not bad, because that's more competition in the space, which forces more innovation. The rumor is it's supposed to be like a standalone watch that you can use to message people, and it'll do like the fitness tracking and all that stuff. But the issue I have is, let's say if an iOS user does get this watch, right, and they opt out of having their information shared, well, this watch is presumably going to be with you all the time, no matter where you go. And aside from it just tracking your location, it's also going to have your health information. So my thing with Facebook and the watch is, do you want to give this information over to them with the way that they've been acting towards a policy that's like pro-user privacy? So you'd have all this information like health information, location information, just things about yourself that's a little bit more intimate than what you would have with a phone, because your phone's not constantly monitoring your activities or heart rate or anything. And just giving this over to Facebook with the way that they've been treating the situation with Apple. And of course, my immediate answer is no. Like, I feel a little bit uncomfortable with the information they have just based off of the, Oculus stuff. And you have to create a Facebook account for it now, which is another thing I did a video on recently. That's a whole different subject I'm not even gonna get into. But the thing is, like, the way that they're acting is like they want to take this information without permission, pretty much. And I just think that buying a Facebook watch, if this does come out, which is rumored to be coming out next year, would probably be like, not the greatest decision unless you really trust Facebook. And I don't think they've really given good enough reasons for people to fully trust them with that type of information. Also, it's rumored that they're going to be using like a version of Android and building their own custom operating system. And this is going to be a first generation product on top of that. So I just don't think that they'll be able to compete OS wise, especially with the Apple Watch or any of the existing Android watches. And Android Wear hasn't really caught on either. So it's kind of like they're really entering into a market. Like, yeah, it's still a growing market, but it is a market that unless you have a really impressive product that can really compete with the Apple Watch, you're not going to be successful. And honestly, this article I was looking at mentioned the Facebook phone, and I completely forgot. Like, I was thinking that there was a Facebook phone, but there was also an Amazon phone that flopped. So I completely forgot that there actually was a Facebook phone, and it flopped because it was terrible back in 2013. And this would have been a time where the market was just beginning to mature. So they've kind of tried this before with phones. That's just probably the reason why they're not making a phone. If they try to make a phone right now, it really have to be competitive either on the budget end or on the high end. And then also if they try to do like their own version of Android with a phone without the Google Play Store, it's just not going to catch on. And then obviously there's going to be a lot of Facebook integration, which I think a lot of people probably just wouldn't like. So I don't think they would try the phone thing again. So the watch makes sense because it's not a mature market. Like the time when their phone flopped, the smartphone market really wasn't mature. It was heading there because I was back in 2013, but now like it's super like mature, and I just don't think that they have any footing in there. And I feel like they're even entering the smartwatch market too late at this point where it's going to be successful, especially if they're going to try to do their own custom OS, and this is a first generation product. Now, we don't know how much this is going to cost. If it's a cheaper watch, maybe it's like $150 or $100, then it could sell, but again, that's a big if. It depends on how much money they're willing to lose on this product, especially if it's going to be standalone. And we all know for standalone watches, the battery life isn't great because it's a tiny battery. Like this thing lasts like 4 to 6 hours on LTE. I do have the cellular version. And I really just don't see them making a smartwatch, like a standalone smartwatch that's going to be great, especially the first generation. I don't think that Facebook's incapable of making a good product. Apparently the Facebook portal is really good. But you're talking about a product that a lot of companies have already failed at, and even the ones that have been successful still haven't been nearly as successful as the Apple Watch. Now, do I think that majority of users, if Facebook came out with like $100 watch, and a lot of people that use Facebook saw this advertisement and was like, oh, a Facebook watch for $100, I think a lot of them probably would buy it. You know, no matter how good it is, especially if it's like older people or just people in general who are less in touch with the tech news and what's going on with Facebook and the privacy stuff. There are going to be a lot of people out there in the world who are just not in touch with what's going on. It's like, honestly, when the Cambridge Analytica scandal happened, I was hoping that Facebook would come back and try to do right by the users. And like I said, they've made steps in the right direction, but it's just with this whole Apple thing recently, it's just been bad. And I don't think that they're going to be successful if they even put out a watch, because it is such a niche category. It's like pretty much everybody needs a phone, but the smartwatch is either you're into it or you're not. So like the Facebook portal even makes sense because it's like, oh, I can video call with my, aunt or my grandkids or my kids or something like that. But a smartwatch is just way more of a niche product. Like a lot of people really wouldn't buy it unless they're maybe into fitness, because like it does all the same stuff that your phone does aside from like the fitness tracking stuff. And that's the main reason I have mine. And also I just like being able to get messages without looking at my phone, or if it's a phone call coming in, I can just check it really quick and reject it on my wrist without having to look at my phone. So it really is a niche product, and I think them getting into that category is probably a bad decision from a business standpoint. I think if they really do this, they'll probably lose money. And then from an ethical standpoint, I just don't trust them to make the right decisions with user data. So that's my big rant on the rumored Facebook watch. Of course, if this does become a real product, then I'll do a follow-up video or follow-up coverage on it, but I just kind of wanted to get that out there. This, again, is more of an opinion piece. Let me know what you think. Would you trust a Facebook watch, and what would it take for you to buy? Like, what would be your price point, ideally, for like a Facebook watch? Let me know. I will be back on Sunday with more tech news, but until then, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time.